that's your go-to, probably like 6:30 timestamp. You're watching that. You're having, just a relaxing time. Unless you were watching last night of what aired and you were probably shouting at your television sets. We're going to get you to shout at your radio if you missed it, because good grief, it wants you to pull your hair out. So we got that audio as a little bit of fun. State of the Union was last night. Your thoughts on that, what you heard, what you saw. You can start joining the conversation right now with that, because that's how we're kicking off the show, recapping the State of the Union. The iConsultants of North Dakota text club is 35270. Laney's studio line open all day at 237-5948. We got Bill Warner, a Capital correspondent down in St. Paul, joining us, a candidate for the city commission here in Fargo, and Fran Olson, a friend of the show, to break down the Putin war in Ukraine and how that might impact agriculture and their prices. That is all coming up right after this KFGO News.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead. It is partly sunny now and 20 degrees. I'm Paul Jurgens. Richland County Sheriff Larry Leshesky says a man who started a fire at the law enforcement center at Wahpeton last night was seen on surveillance video lighting some sort of device before leaving the scene. Leshesky says it's difficult to identify the device that held the material that was set on fire about 9:30 in the lobby of the building. That device was taken to a federal lab for examination. Investigators are reviewing video surveillance to identify a suspect. The fire caused moderate damage to the lobby and smoke throughout the building. Inmates were transferred to jails in Fargo and Valley City. A woman is expected to face a felony assault charge for stabbing a man in the back in Wahpeton late yesterday afternoon. Police Chief Scott Thorstensen says the victim is the manager of the apartment building where the woman lives.
Officers responded to a complaint from a 60-year-old male in the 800 block of South Center Street who reported that he had been stabbed or assaulted by a female resident of the area, assisted by NDSES officers and sheriff's officers, and also the task force SEMCA officers, and determined that he'd been stabbed kind of in the kidney area.
Thorstensen says the victim refused medical attention at the scene but was encouraged to see a doctor. The Minnesota Senate Elections Committee is reviewing a bill to block local governments from using outside money for election expenses. The bill is similar to attempts by Republican legislatures across the country after a foundation funded by Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg awarded $400 million to help local governments with the 2020 election. The bill was delayed for possible consideration later. The Center for Tech and Civic Life sent hundreds of millions of dollars to election officers across the country ahead of the election. There is some suspicion among Republicans that Zuckerberg's money benefited Democrats. Legislation in the Minnesota House would create a separate agency to oversee the pet industry. The bill's sponsor says dogs, cats, and other companion pets have unique issues, and the current Animal Health Board is too heavily focused on livestock and wildlife. The bill has the backing of the Animal Humane Society, which brought puppies and kittens to the Capitol. It is opposed by the Minnesota Veterinary Medicine Association, which says the existing Board of Animal Health does a good job of managing the welfare of pets. Fargo-Moorhead, a mostly cloudy afternoon. Temperatures holding about steady. We'll see partly cloudy conditions overnight and about 4 below. Tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy, a high of 14. Then tomorrow night, near 11 degrees, mostly cloudy, chance of light snow, maybe a snow-rain mix at some point. 26, mostly cloudy for Friday, possible flurries. 29 then Saturday, good chance of light snow, maybe mixed precipitation again. And windy for Sunday, chance of light snow, 19. Fargo-Moorhead, 20 degrees. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Before we get to Afternoons Live here on the Mighty 790 and 104.7, we have a test of the emergency alert system. Once again, this is only a test.
All right, did you watch it? Or did you do like me? I listened to the State of the Union. President Joe Biden last night took his first chance to speak before members of Congress to the not only the nation, quite frankly, the world, because of just all the events that have gone on really over the last 7 days. The question is, did you watch it? I listened to it, and the reason why I'm asking, because visiting with some coworkers here that watched it versus me listening to it on KFGO here as we were carrying it live. I think the things that stood out were so vastly different as far as what was said versus what was seen. Because obviously you have the whole pomp and circumstance. You have the awkward, do I clap now? Is this supposed to be the applause line? I mean, if you have not seen Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, have we all been there at some point? You're anticipating, okay, he's good. This speaker's going to nail it right now. They're going to stick the landing. You're going to get ready to clap, only to find out that there's more to be said, and you stood up and looked like an idiot. That happened to Chuck Schumer last night. Now, I heard that he was not, in fact, the only one. But, that's why I preferred to listen to it, because the whole, you got to pan to see the reaction from any given senator that doesn't know the camera's on them. Now, some of them, of course, wanted the attention. I mean, we could talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene's, Laura Boebert there. I think that's how you pronounce your last name. And those distractions and the ill-timed booing or shouting or interrupting of the president, which it never always used to be that way. I mean, you think about how the discourse, quite frankly, the interactions changed since George W. Bush. I don't know that George W. Bush got interrupted. If somebody's got an example, by all means, you know how to get a hold of me. 35270, or call me at 237-5948. First time that I really remember was it Joe Wilson, Republican congressman, yelling, "You lie" to Barack Obama when he was president? You had some of the moments during the Trump administration, and now you've got the Biden speech last night getting interrupted at a moment in which he was talking about veterans. I mean, just ill taste. It was just, quite frankly, disgusting. The sophomoric behavior that now we've just come to expect from elected leaders is something that we've got to work on. And it does start with you and I, and people are voting for these individuals. Stop making these individuals elevated to elected office. I think that's a simple request. But if you did pay attention, what did you hear that you liked? What did you hear that you didn't like? I know, or what did you not hear that you're disappointed in it is what I want to hear from you at 35270. And of course, I just told you the Laney studio line. There are a couple things. Obviously, I think it started off strong with the approach, the direct approach to Vladimir Putin and talking about the sanctions. And quite frankly, I think what NATO's done, our allies coming together at a much more rapid pace than what a lot of people expected, including those experts that I have on this very show from time to time. Dakota Rudisill, Thomas Ambrosio, others saying, look, this the response didn't see it coming together as quickly and as forceful when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to other things being done. I think that was a strong opening that got a lot of people on both sides of this political aisle in agreement, saying, all right, yep, we stand united in our efforts to support Ukraine against Putin. Didn't take long after that, though, to bring up taxes to where, okay, this is where some of the disagreements are when it comes to domestic policy. And that should have shocked nobody when it came to domestic issues, that you're going to have some of the disagreements in here. But quite frankly, if you look at some of the things, and I'm going to throw some of these out your way. I see the phone lines are lined up, and I will get to you. When you're throwing out there, as far as the cutting costs, now the whole attempt to have a new slogan of cut costs, don't cut wages, okay. But what's going to cut costs? And we talk about, or the president talked about cutting costs for prescription drugs, lowering the cost of childcare, instituting free universal pre-K. Those are things that have been talked about for quite some time. It's to take Congress to do it. That stood out to me. investments that support veterans, which, of course, that's the line that got everybody worked up on the Marjorie Taylor Greens. Combating domestic violence, research into cancer, and that investment. Those things stood out. But also, this is the one that I really want for those of you that keep saying that crisis at the border or immigration, it's a broken system. When you've got the president saying, a Democratic president, saying fix it. It's well past time to fix the immigration policies of this country. And one more for you. For all what I said at the time, the stupidity of the whole defund the police slogans, to have that come out and say, look, you don't defund, you have to fund the police. That got the blowback from the further left side of his own party. Those are some of my observations. I want to hear from you. I'm going to get to the phone lines to visit with Ron. Ron, thanks for calling in. How are you today?
Oh, just great.
Very good.
I guess the one thing that I missed and I was hoping for is that he'd open up a pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ron, I know that when he talked about energy and saying, hey, everything's on the table, I was expecting at some point either, hey, we're completely cutting off Russian imports, or it's time to ramp up the production here. Didn't go as far to say either one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best thing. And, if we're going to have global warming, then the whole world has to do it, not just the United States.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I'm not going to disagree. You didn't say anything that I felt myself shaking my head here at all.
Yeah. I'm not trying to stir the pot or anything.
Hey, no worries. We take that as well.
Making a statement there.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And thanks a lot for having me on, though.
Yeah, no, thanks for all. You call in anytime. We get you on. This is a platform for all of you as well. At 35270, I got a number of messages coming in. Tyler, is a government-mandated job shutdown via the COVID, and then conversely, those mandates lifting to be considered job creation. Same goes for economic bounce back. Another one, Tyler, there was a Supreme Court justice who also spoke out of turn. Trump should be extremely proud of Greene, meaning Marjorie Taylor Greene. Really? One more. Towards the end, he just copied Trump, secure the borders, be strong. He actually plagiarized one of Trump's lines. Which line? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious when you say that. There was a plagiarized line there. We'll come back to those. I'll give you my thoughts so that I'm a little bit behind my time here. More Afternoons Live. We're just getting started here on a Wednesday afternoon. Don't go anywhere.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Mighty 790. Couch Potato Radio.
JJ
Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Paul Jerkins News Radio.
Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on the MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining.
All right, the line that it was about the State of the Union is strong because you, the people, are strong, is what people are throwing in. I'm going to have to venture a guess and say there was probably other presidents that also said that before Trump. I mean, that's just the general. I mean, that's. I don't know. Do I say platitudes? It's not a unique thing to say. I understand what you're trying to get at here, but let's talk about the securing the borders and being strong there. The thing that, the State of the Unions. Yep, it's great to have the president get up and say, "All right." I mean, well, he's required to in one, but go out there and have basically a laundry list of things. This is what my administration wants to do. A lot of that, quite frankly, comes down to Congress. And we always want to pin it back on the president, right? And I keep thinking about that immigration reform as being the prime example because it's at the top of some voters' minds. I mean, certainly it's more on the priority list higher up on the Republican voters than Democratic voters. I mean, I don't think there's any disputing that. But when it comes to actually taking care of it, it comes down to Congress. And I go back to the Obama administration, in which there was a bipartisan passage of comprehensive immigration reform that did or would have done a lot of the things that even Donald Trump's administration had asked for as well. So you had an opportunity there. And this is where I found myself nodding when I was listening to Joe Biden last night, saying, look, it's long past time to get this done because they were so close when he was vice president. It passed bipartisanship in, I believe it was the U.S. Senate. Then it went over to the House, which John Boehner at the time was the Speaker of the House, too close to an election, don't want to give a win, don't want to resolve the issue, so they didn't do anything with it. And now here we are, what are we, at least 8 years later? I want to say it was 2013 or 14 in which that bell and nothing's happened. And because Congress doesn't do their job, then we just expect, well, that administration's supposed to do it. That's not exactly how it's supposed to go. The laundry list of all this, combat inflation, all that, it sounds great, for the most part, willing to hear it. But you got to have some willingness within Congress to get it done. So you set those expectations so dang high, only to have it trickle out at the end and nothing gets done. And then here we are back in the next State of the Union saying, I think I heard the same line just last year. 35270. Tyler, if that's a picture of the Democratic Party, I think there's a big trouble, one that is in one way over their head for the job. The other two look like they should be at a nursing home ice cream social. Here's one thing. If that's the picture of the Democratic Party, is Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Laura Zabobert, is that the picture of the Republican Party? Is that the future of the Republican Party, having two individuals act like sophomores in high school? They can't sit still at the gymnasium, the Lyceum that's going on. Here's what is baffling to me about the Democratic Party. You have got Joe Biden, who is the head of your party, just by the chance because he's the president, and you have got a response to the State of the Union, and what you would expect, obviously, from the opposition party, and of course that was delivered from Iowa's governor, I believe, Kim Reynolds, to be expected. Now people are criticizing that speech, that happens, but why in the world? On this whole left side, those that have pushed the Green New Deal, those that push the whole defund the police, those that push all these rather extreme ideals on the Democratic side, coming on putting out their own response. At what point do they think they're doing their party any favor? See, now, if that's the picture of the Democratic Party, I understand why people in this area of the country that voted along or have run as Democrats are saying, look, I don't know if I've got the home that I once did within the confines of a Dem party. But I think it's a fair question for you to say, if that's the picture of the Democratic Party, do you want the picture of the Republican Party to be those two shouting out while they're trying to figure out how to treat veterans that have come back with cancer? More messages coming in. Tyler, there's just something about a bunch of smiling insider trading, grifting geezers, strong opinions here, safe in their paycheck and retirement, clapping for themselves, talk to Americans like they are a bunch of uneducated buffoons. That makes a guy want to puke. I would have no problem whatsoever if we go back, I think way back in the day, all right, here's the State of the Union delivered from the office of the president in this booklet here. Read as you wish. I would have no problem with getting back to that because this whole pomp and circumstance of, like I said, of all right, now wait for the applause line. I think it's coming here. Okay, it's now, and then to have the round of applause. I get it's gotten quite silly overall for me. Now the message that needs to be delivered by law, I get it. If in fact it went back to that, how many of you would read it? Would you consume it? I doubt it. How many of you didn't watch it last night? A lot of you probably listen to me right now. Saying, I went to Netflix. I streamed something else because all of it's just the same old song and dance any given year. In fact, they're using the same lines from the last speech as we're getting in here. 237-5948. That's the Lenny studio line. We'll dabble back and forth into this conversation. What you observed, what you liked, what you really didn't. And in the meantime, I'm going to get you caught up with KFGO News, and we'll check in with Rusty Alverson. Bill Werner, we're heading over to Minnesota. Every Wednesday, we like to catch up with our Capital correspondent with the Minnesota News Network. One thing that was discussed, and it needs to be because it's on the top of your minds, is inflation. Well, if you got a $9.3 billion surplus in Minnesota, everyone's trying to figure out, hey, what can we do? Times are feeling good. But you got to consider, one, what the impact from this Ukrainian war brought on by Putin means for your longevity of that budget surplus, and inflation, what that's going to mean as well. So we're going to get his take on all of that and, quite frankly, just a number of other things going on during that legislative session that, quite frankly, is during an election year, which brings a whole other world of dynamics as to what you're hearing out there with those frontline workers checks, the tax breaks. So we'll get his take on that and so much more coming up right here on KFGO. I'm Tyler Exodus. You're listening to Afternoons Live. Stick with us.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen,
790.
Couch Potato Radio. JJ Gordon from It Takes Two. Doug here with the morning crew this morning. Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too tall.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Linex of Fargo. This is Linex country, home of the adventurous. Find them at 265 Main Avenue in West Fargo.
Fargo-Moorhead, partly sunny. It's 20. I'm Paul Jerkins. Arson is the cause of a fire that caused moderate damage to the lobby of the Richland County Law Enforcement Center at Wahpeton last night. The rest of the building filled with smoke. Sheriff Larry Leshesky tells KFGO News it is clear that fire was set.
Found that there was some type of device that was in there. In reviewing footage that we've seen, we observed an individual. They immediately looked at that. They seen an individual that actually entered, placed this thing there, lit it, and then ran. So So we definitely have, someone that lit this with whatever intents.
The sheriff says it's difficult to identify the device that held the material that was set on fire. It was sent to an ATF lab for further examination. A search of the immediate area failed to turn up any suspect. 15 inmates were transported by bus to jails in Fargo and Valley City as a precaution. They'll be returned to the jail in Wahpeton today. Federal ATF agents and the Bureau of Criminal Investigation are assisting the Richland County Sheriff's Office with that case. 20 degrees. This is KFGO News. You're listening to KFGO News. North Dakota's largest oil driller says it will commit $250 million to help build a proposed pipeline that would gather carbon dioxide produced by ethanol plants across the Midwest and pump it underground for storage. Billionaire oil tycoon Harold Hamm's Continental Resources made the announcement of the investment into Summit Carbon Solutions' $4.5 billion pipeline at the ethanol plant near Castleton. The plant is one of 31 across Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, where emissions would be captured and piped to North Dakota to be buried. A monthly bankers survey suggests that worries about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, soaring inflation, and rising interest rates combine to undermine the confidence of business leaders in 9 Midwest and Plains states. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss, who oversees the survey, says businesses also fear the war may worsen the ongoing supply issues. Former Minneapolis radio personality Corey Heppel is running for governor as a centrist third-party candidate. Heppel made the announcement with a video posted on Twitter as his campaign website went live. Heppel is a native of Pura, Minnesota, and a graduate of Concordia College. Heppel also formerly anchored at a Twin Cities TV station. Another third-party candidate, former wrestler Jesse Ventura, won Minnesota's race for governor in 1998. Howard Dahl has not been sleeping much over the last week.
Dahl is the CEO of Fargo's Amity Technology, which manufactures and sells sugar beet harvesting equipment. Amity has a significant business presence in Ukraine and Russia. On the wall of his office, Dahl has an old photograph of Ukrainian women in babushkas sitting beside a field, wiping dirt off leaves from sugar beet plants so animals could safely eat them. Today, with the help of Amity's technology, Ukrainian agricultural operations are a lot more sophisticated. Over the course of his nearly 100 trips to Ukraine, Dahl has developed not only important business relationships, but a fondness for the Ukrainian people.
There's a genuine humility about the Ukrainian people and a rich cultural heritage, as far as love of music, love of dance, love of art, love of poetry. Probably it's the agrarian setting. Growing up in North Dakota, growing up in a small town with an agricultural heritage like we have, I just feel a real kinship with Ukrainian people.
Dahl is also the chairman of the board of the largest sugar company in Ukraine. Among the many uncertainties created by the war is the timing of planting and harvest in Ukraine and Russia.
The big question is, will we be able to put the crop in? Because most of our workers on the farm have basically taken up arms and to fight against the Russian invasion.
He says he's heartened by what he's hearing from his Russian business associates.
Almost all the Russians that I deal with hate what Putin's done. They hate him. They're publicly going on Instagram. Now they're blocked, but publicly saying, Putin's a killer, stop the war.
Dahl says Amity has one employee in Ukraine, but he lives outside the fighting regions and is safe for now. Tasha Carvel, News Radio, KFGO.
KFGO Weather Center forecast. Fargo-Moorhead. Temperatures holding about steady or slowly falling this afternoon. We should be mostly cloudy for the most part. 4 below, partly cloudy overnight. Tomorrow, 14, partly to mostly cloudy. Partly sunny now, it's 20. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty, I think I'm in a better state than what you were in earlier, because I almost started the show by saying, hey, on a Tuesday afternoon, but it's Wednesday. But you thought
you and I were speaking earlier.
Yeah, and you thought today was Thursday. I would rather be in my position thinking that it's Thursday and then the day actually being ahead of where I was instead of realizing I was a day ahead in my mind.
You can imagine the soul-crushing moment when you informed me it was not Thursday.
Yeah. I'm sorry to have to have broken that news now twice within a month for you.
When was the last time?
That was another time in which he popped in my office. He said something, well, today, right? I'm like, today's Wednesday, man.
I kind of remember that. Yeah.
I want to get you a calendar.
Yeah, I've got one.
What was the Dilbert? Is that was that the calendar? The office calendar?
Dilbert?
Yeah, it was a cartoon character.
Yeah, Dilbert was a comic strip.
Yeah, comic strip.
That's about office life.
Office worker.
Yeah, and then you'd pull off the whatever day it was. And
there's Dilbert and Dogbert.
Yeah, if you go with anything but Far Side, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Far Side.
Pretty good stuff.
One or the other I'm getting for you. I'm going to put it on your desk in the newsroom.
Thank you.
That way I'm not the one breaking your heart every day.
Thanks, man.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Yes.
You've been working on supply chain issues. We're going to have Dr. Fran Olson on a little bit later.
Yes.
Dive a little bit more on the particulars, but what did you learn earlier?
Well, on this Wednesday, there is a webinar earlier today hosted by the Northern Crops Institute regarding the supply chain and ports, ocean shipping. They had Walter Lanza. He's a commodity export trade manager with Schooler Company. He came out of NDSU, so local guy. Lanza says many challenges in the supply chain will still remain this year. We need to unclog the ports. We need to address labor shortages. One challenge for the ports, though, Tyler, and expansion is that they're located in metropolitan areas, and there's not a lot of room to expand. And that relates to a recent announcement by Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack with the Port of Oakland, that new 25-acre pop-up site that they're going to use to make it easier for agricultural companies to fill empty shipping containers with commodities. Another step trying to unclog these ports. And one of the neat things I read about this pop-up site in the Port of Oakland, they're going to have a gate with the ability to pre-cool refrigerated shipping containers to receive perishable commodities and try and avoid bottlenecks that would have resulted from entering the main area of the port. And Erin Bohr, the chief economist for the U.S. Meat Export Federation, she said at the Ag Outlook Forum last week, USDA's Ag Outlook Forum, she said one of the big challenges was shipping containers and some of those chilled products, beef and pork, that we're trying to get overseas that are stuck at the ports. So small steps.
Small steps. It would take a lot of steps, albeit very small, to get hopefully something addressed in this thing.
Absolutely.
Very good. You come back next hour. I want to learn more, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
Rusty Alverson, him and Sarah Heinrich also produce all this on KFGO.com. Just click on that agriculture tab. I'm going to get you caught up with CBS National News. Bill Warner, Capitol correspondent, right after this.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Steve Halverson here with another Don News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch
790.
Potato Radio.
JJ Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Force.
Too tall, Tom.
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's
hoping to connect with our buddy Bill Werner down at St. Paul, get the latest for what is going on down in the capital of Minnesota. They've, since I think it was November, December, they had an expectation of a budget surplus of being like $7 billion. Now we're at over $9 billion, almost approaching that $10 billion mark. A lot has changed over there and a lot of ideas of what to do with it. To learn a little bit more, how about we connect with Bill? Bill Werner, how are you doing there, friend?
Hey, doing busy. It's a busy day, I'll tell you that, Tyler.
I am shocked to hear that it is a busy day out there in St. Paul. What are they busy visiting with today?
Well, and I should probably mention that President Biden is in the Twin Ports, Duluth Superior. Mm-hmm. He's actually speaking at this moment at the University of Wisconsin Superior campus, and he's highlighting infrastructure. Mentioned the Blotnick Bridge there, one of the major connecting bridges between Duluth and Superior, reaching the end of its useful life, and that needs to be repaired, and that some of that infrastructure money out of that $1 trillion package appears that it's going to go for the repair of that. So that's what's happening a little bit east of you right as we speak.
Well, I'm sorry to pull you away from the president's remarks out there because it's certainly. I was following along with his remarks last night, and I know when it comes to budgeting in Minnesota, the surplus of a $9.3 billion with a B.
Yeah, 9.2, 9.3, right? It grew.
Yeah, it got a lot of people's eyes a little bit wider as the possibilities. But one thing that also has come in response is, well, what's inflation going to do to this? President Biden's remarks last night did touch a little bit on inflation. I'm just curious, given your morning out in the Capitol, what did they hear? What are you hearing from lawmakers in Minnesota?
Yeah, and that is certainly a concern, and it's a matter of a couple of areas. But the most recent one that we've been confronted with, of course, is the situation in Ukraine, and it's a question of what is that going to do to prices generally, fuel prices specifically, and also the state economic experts are saying what is it going to do in the agricultural sector, because Ukraine is a big producer of wheat, one of the largest, if not the largest in the world, and if that's out of commission because of a war, or significantly out of commission because of a war, what does that do to agricultural prices? How does that affect the Minnesota economy and farmers here and in North Dakota as well? And those are unknowns at this point.
That's a conversation I'm getting into about the 4 o'clock hour. A professor up here at NDSU, an agribusiness economist, to talk about that very issue of what that's going to do with agriculture. Of course, my side of the river over here, we talked at length about energy production and what that's impacting. So that agriculture aspect certainly on a lot of people's minds, what that's going to do for the checkbook at the farmhouse and what that's going to do to the bank accounts out in these capitals as well, Bill.
Yeah, it's a big part of the economy of both of our states. I mean, there's no question about that. And there are a lot of unknowns. It just depends on what happens with this conflict, with this war that Russia has launched against Ukraine, and how long it persists. And this is, it becomes a military question as well as a geopolitical one.
As far as the surplus, where it rests now, what we do know is you got a little over $9 billion. That's up from a little below $8 billion, I think, from the December.
Correct.
What's the driving factor behind this?
Well, it's a case of that tax collections are higher than expected, and a lot of that has to do with personal income tax. And another thing that has kept the surplus the size that it is this injection of American Rescue money. That kind of took the whole thing and amped it up quite a bit, right? Because you're talking about many billions of dollars there that came into Minnesota, some of which are still not committed, right? And are still available. So that's really what we're talking about. That the whole thing basically came back faster than was expected. The economy I'm talking about, and hence we've got a real large, an historically large budget surplus, the largest ever in absolute dollar amounts. It may not be the largest ever if you adjust it for inflation, right, in real dollars, and so on. But certainly the largest in absolute amounts ever in Minnesota history.
Bill, I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. I imagine out in St. Paul, Republicans and Democrats got in the same room. They popped champagne and said, God, we got a lot of money, and they are all in agreement on what they want to do with it.
In our dreams, right?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, there's a division here. Where do we rest with this?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the division is kind of where it has been all along for years and years at the legislature, but it's just accentuated, it's ratcheted up by not only the original large budget surplus number that we had back in November, but now the one over $9 billion has just caused the sides to really harden their positions. Specifically, Republicans saying, hey, this is an example of over-collection. And, I mean, the state's collecting too much money, so give it back. And not only give it back, as the governor is talking about in terms of the surplus, but give it back as far as permanent tax cuts so that we don't have this problem of over-collection all the time. And the response that Democrats and the governor have to that, Governor Walz specifically, is, that he's certainly willing to talk about some permanent tax cuts as long as they're responsible, but he's not going to give them to someone. Example he's used was someone making $20,000 a week, not a year now, but a week. Meaning, hey, all the wealthy people, the upper income people in Minnesota are not going to get a tax cut like that on his watch, is what the governor said. The Republicans come back on that and say, well, everybody, regardless of income, paid in to more than they should have, and we have a big surplus, so why shouldn't everybody get back equally based on what they put in? And that's kind of where the argument stands right now.
Bill, just one final angle from last night in relation to Minnesota before I let you get back after it out there is one of the applause lines that happened was when President Biden said, you know what, we don't need to defund the police, we need to fund the police. That's been a topic of conversation in St. Paul for quite some time. How was it received?
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, that was an interesting comment on the president's part, because then he also talked after that about police accountability and no-knock warrants as well. So what he's doing there is he's really walking a line, and it's a tough line politically, and saying, yes, we need to fund the police, not defund them. However, we also need to enact accountability measures, such as restricting no-knock warrants and other measures. It was politically a pretty deft balancing act on his part. To be honest with you, I think as it was seen by analysts, leaving it where each side can kind of say, yeah, the president is saying something that we support, and the broad population at large is I think, not supportive of defunding the police, right? And so hence he was able to make that statement to Americans as a whole, outside of political Americans, or outside of politicians, I should say.
Bill, I know how busy you are. I appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday as usual. I tell you what, let's do this again next week, all right?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll keep in touch. We'll be busy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, appreciate your time. You take care, friend.
Oh, sure, Tyler.
All right. Bill Warner, Capitol correspondent down in St. Paul, pulling away from his attention to the President of the United States in Superior, Wisconsin, to visit with you and I right here on KFGO. Got to get you that weather update from Too Tall Tom Szymanski. Wrap up hour number 1 of Afternoons Live next.
Roberson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces. Too Tall Tom. Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
Got up with some CBS National News headlines. Check back in with Paul Juergens for those KFGO headlines, and then be visiting with Will Thompson, candidate for the City Commission right here in Fargo. In the meantime, during our conversation with Bill Warner down in St. Paul, they're getting a number of messages to the Consultants of North Dakota text club at 35270 about just the State of the Union last night. Share some of those with you. Tyler, I did watch the speech last night. My overall reaction was that it had a hopeful tone. It was good to see a few bipartisan positive reactions. It was disturbing to see the snotty, disrespectful faces made by Senator Susan Collins and a few other disruptive outcries at specific points. See, now again, listening to it here on KFGO, I didn't get the reactions. I didn't see the faces from the members in the audience. So I'm not familiar with the Susan Collins faces. Back to the tone, though. That whole the moments of a few bipartisan positive reactions, hopeful tone. Imagine if that speech would have been delivered 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, so a week before Putin invaded Ukraine. I'm curious if the tone, or in particular, if the reactions, the bipartisan ones, would have been the same, if they would have been as well received. My gut tells me it wouldn't have been. Timing is very important here. But I do think the tone from the president starting off, I think, did hit a stride. And quite frankly, the closing hit a good stride as well. A number of things that a lot of people tend to agree on the subject, even if you don't agree with who's delivering the message. Another one at 35270. Tyler, you're correct about Bobbert. And if I'm mispronouncing, I apologize. And Green. There are nothing more than sophomoric, cliquey, mean girls whose political party's only agenda is obstructionism to try and get out or retain political power. Denying a win for the Democrats is denying a win for the people of the United States. Others are saying, Tyler, I get that you don't like these two individuals, the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Laura Boeberts, but they don't have any power. I disagree on the not having any political power. Yeah, they might not be on any committee work right now, being in the minority, and that's about the only accountability that Kevin McCarthy has done as far as his role in leadership is, well, you're off of, and actually I don't even know that it was him. It could have been getting voted off from the Democratic side. This has just freed up Marjorie Taylor Greene to find any talk show that would have her on, find any white nationalists conference to go speak in front of, go on any social media that still allows her to go on and speak in front of a large audience. She's got a large following. That in and of itself gives her quite a bit of power. So, yeah, you're right. I don't think they have any role, or they shouldn't have a role in Congress. To say that they don't have any power, I think, is not correct. I think, in fact, that you can say that with their reach from their free time gives them a lot more power in the sphere of public opinion. We'll continue this conversation. Like I said, all day we'll sprinkle in and out of this. We're going to have a candidate, Will Thompson, on. Also, Fran Olson, he is with NDSU's Agribusiness and Economics. What does this Putin war in Ukraine mean for you as farmers? And quite frankly, when it comes to the commodity prices, a supply chain, is it as impactful as what some people are fearing? We'll find out from him in a little bit of time. Also, Wheel of Fortune, get ready to scream at your radios. If you haven't watched the clip from last night, you'll hear it right here on Afternoons Live. I'm Tyler Axtis. You got it locked into 790 AM and 104.7 FM, KFGO.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Roberson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek Hansen, Couch Potato Radio.
JJ Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
It is 3:05. Here's a little on this day. Some birthdays as well. One of them being rocker John Bon Jovi, who turned 60. Thanks for Eric Johnson, my producer, not playing me some Bon Jovi.
Yeah, dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, that's right. You admit that now, and that's all we needed. But also on this day, this is one thing that, when you think about big moments in sports, things that changed games, 1962, so 60 years ago, Wilt Chamberlain scored the 100 points in that one game for the then Philadelphia Warriors, playing against the New York Knicks, the NBA record that still stands. I think the closest person after that is what, Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, he got to
81.
Yeah,
81. So Wilt Chamberlain's 100 points still stands. That was 60 years ago today. What other of those like big sports moments are like, wow, this will never happen again?
I think and I'm blanking on the punter's name, but he has an insanely long punt. He's the most famous punter, played for the Chargers. And he's got an insanely 75, 78
He is so famous that
punt.
his name escapes you.
Yes.
But then
an era before I can remember, but he's got an insanely long punt.
All right, fans or listeners, sports fans, text in those records that are never going to be broken. 35270. That's the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. Got to check in with Paul Jurgens of the KFGO News Center. Will Thompson, he wants to be a Fargo City Commissioner. He'll tell you why next.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, 19 degrees. I'm Paul Jurgens. Richland County Sheriff Larry Leszewski says a man who started a fire at the law enforcement center at Wahpeton was seen on surveillance video lighting some sort of device before leaving the scene. Leszewski says it's difficult to identify the device that held the material that was set on fire about 9:30 last night in the lobby of the building. The device was taken to a federal lab for examination. Investigators are reviewing video surveillance to identify a suspect. The fire caused moderate damage to the lobby and smoke throughout the building. Inmates were transferred to jails in Fargo and Valley City. A woman has been arrested for a stabbing in Wahpeton. Police Chief Scott Thorstensen says the woman was arrested yesterday afternoon for aggravated assault following the stabbing at an apartment building where the victim is the manager. The woman is a tenant. Thorstensen says the man was stabbed in the back but refused to go to the hospital. He says the victim may have sought medical treatment later. The widow of southern Minnesota Congressman Jim Hagedorn may seek her husband's seat in Washington.
Former GOP staffer Michael Broadcorp says Jennifer Carnahan is putting together a campaign team for a potential bid for that 1st District seat, left vacated by her husband's death less than 2 weeks ago. Hagedorn died February 17th after a battle with kidney cancer.
That's reporter Laura Oakes. 2 weeks ago, Carnahan, the former state Republican Party chair, said it was too early to speculate on who would be a candidate to replace her husband. Legislation in the Minnesota House would create a separate agency to oversee the pet industry. The bill's sponsor says dogs, cats, and other companion pets have unique issues, and the current Animal Health Board is too heavily focused on livestock and wildlife. The bill has the backing of the Animal Humane Society, which brought puppies and kittens to the Capitol. It is opposed by the Minnesota Veterinary Medical Medicine Association, which says the Board of Animal Health does a good job of managing the welfare of pets. Fargo-Moorhead, slowly falling temperatures this afternoon. We are at 19 now. Overnight, 4 below, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy and 14. Again, 19. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
All right, now the March is upon us. You're having some of these conventions take place for those races that are, partisan. So we're getting into election season, and quite frankly, June. Do we hope it's right around the corner? It's going to be here before we know it. Get this winter behind us. So that means we're going to be starting our conversations with some of the candidates that want to earn your vote, and we're going to start that right here in the city of Fargo. Fargo City Commission race is ongoing. I think there's like 6 candidates now. One of them is Will Thompson, and quite frankly, he joins me right now in the studio. How are you doing, Will?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here,
Thanks
Tyler.
for taking some time and joining us here. So, I mean, when it comes to all this, and we'll get into some of the details, your background, I mean, you're from the area here. Young guy, which is encouraging for a lot of people. There's, for example, we were talking about the State of the Union last night, and people are commenting on the age of people that were, maybe sitting behind the president himself. So it's good to see young people wanting to get involved. But the question of people that are in Fargo saying, why should I vote for you? That's my question for you right now. Why should people listening that are in Fargo vote for you?
Yeah, well, I think that's a fair question. Like you said, I'm a young person. I've got some bold ideas, though. I've got some new ideas that I'd like to implement in the city. And, I come from a little bit of a political legacy. I was raised pretty politically. My father was a mayor of our small town that I was born in, and did some other politics. So.
I might know that town, and I might know that individual.
Yeah, Vern Thompson.
Yeah, Vern Thompson, for those of you. Vern, obviously well known to this radio station, well known for his time on the legislature as well. So the political background.
Yeah, there's a background there, and I think that that plus some of these bold ideas that I want to bring to the table, that I think they speak for themselves.
So let's dive into that. When you talk about bold ideas, we've got Fargo growing as it is. You talk about bold ideas. This is why I'm running. Give me an example.
Yeah, so the number one thing that I'm focused on is grid and really making that independent for ourselves, and sustainably independent is the key there. I think that we're looking at a situation where we're facing an existential problem as a society, as a people, as the human race, and that is climate change. And we need to make sure that we've secured our own local community and made it resilient enough, because we can't rely on other people to do it. People out in Bismarck are pretty focused on the culture war issues, stuff like that. I want to be focused on the material needs and providing material benefit to the local area.
So from a city commission standpoint, I'm curious what you would do to accomplish that, to have this energy grid. I mean, there's a lot of people saying, well, quite frankly, a lot of energy is coming as of now from coal. It's coming from the western North Dakota. We've got wind. So how does a city go about accomplishing that end?
Yeah, well, my vision and my dream for Fargo is that every building would be able to not only consume electricity, but also produce it and store it on site. Mike Williams, a former city commissioner, gave me a good term for this that he got it from Norway, prosumers. Every building is a prosumer in Norway. So they got solar panels on them and they got on-site storage. The electric vehicles that they drive basically serve as big, huge batteries on wheels, stuff like that. So it's about flexing our local sovereignty to do that. We give property tax relief and other incentives for people to beautify their houses, which there's value there, and to do other things. One of the things that I would want to focus on for that particular, lens is providing, green solutions.
Speaking of taxes, there's messages coming in. Tyler, ask him about addressing high tax, property, high taxes and specials. So you have any thoughts on, when people are running for these races, and quite frankly, if they're running for the legislature, the one tax that continuously comes up, property taxes continue to rise. Mm-hmm. But you also have specials in this area as well. Have a platform that addresses either of those?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One of the things I'm primarily interested in, and this is another bold idea that doesn't get talked about enough, is public banking at the city level. We have a state bank. We're the only state in the country that has a publicly owned bank. It's the only publicly owned bank in the country. But there's movement in the direction of public banking. Places like upstate New York, rural California, these are traditionally red areas. They've come into compromise with the cities. And they're opening the door for public banking at a larger scale. So I want North Dakota, this is the birthplace of public banking. I would like for our city to flex our ability there and use low interest rate loans to sort of replace some of that special assessments through the bonding practice. And also, you ask, well, okay, where's all the capital going to come in for the bank? One of the things that I'm interested in is changing it so that you yourself don't have to concern yourself with the property tax if you've got your money invested in the public bank. They'll handle all the paperwork for you, and they'll give you interest on your investment for doing so.
So there's examples of that program that you're talking about, this bold idea. There's other places. I'm asking because of people, hey, I've never heard of this before, me being one.
Yes. No, this is bold in the sense that it isn't happening anywhere else. North Dakota, like I said, has the only public bank in the country. Yeah. The New York State and California State, they've changed their constitution. That's what we had to do to open a public bank. We had to change our constitution. They've slightly changed their constitution so that the door is open for them. But what really needs to happen is the federal level. There's a Public Banking Act that was introduced originally in 2019, got reintroduced in 2021. And that's sort of stalled right now. Like a lot of things have stalled at the federal level. But what I'm interested in is getting ahead of the ball. Because if you are to get in on the ground floor, you got to be doing it before other people are talking about it. So we could put that framework together now so that we can really reap the benefits of it down the line. Because like I said, there's compromise in these big states between the red side and the blue side. You know that it's coming to the entire nation eventually then.
Will Thompson's our guest. He's a candidate for the city commission right here in Fargo. You mentioned other property taxes of some incentives there. I'm just curious, when it comes to downtown, you've got a lot of that, and people think about, well, the tax breaks that were given, say, to the development dollar. I'm not going to single out any business that's doing this, and whether that's right or wrong, but I'm just, your thoughts on those incentives for that type of development in downtown?
Yeah, well, every project, has its own merits, and you got to look at it. I am not, demagogically opposed to incentivizing development, but it's all about what kind of development we need. So, you look at the draft housing report that the city's put out. It shows that by 2030, all across the city, we're going to need about 1,800 affordable rental units. That's what the demand is. Now, just downtown, that's about 20% of that needs to be just downtown. So we're looking at about 400 units that we need by 2030. So if we're going to incentivize that, which is an underserved market right now, I'm certainly in favor of that. What we don't need relatively more of, we definitely need more. We're a growing city. So I'm not going to say we don't need market rate housing. We do. We need it. But what we need more right now is affordable workforce housing.
One of the things, speaking of development and housing, they just had I think it was the FM Chamber had, and I didn't get a chance to go over there. I know we had some of our news was there talking about the growth. Our footprint of Fargo is what, equivalent to San Francisco?
It's bigger than San Francisco and Boston, yeah.
So, you have this now diversion that's going to be accomplished. Not everybody wants to hear that, but it's going to be done. What's your take on the growth south? Because I don't want to lead you into a question, just because the way of which they described it, saying, hey, we got about another 30, 50 years, and that's from developers, to continue to grow south. Then we might have to change ways. Your concept of the growth of this city, how do you address it? What would you do different?
Well, I think we can all agree that private investment on the periphery, on the edges, that's only a good thing for the tax base. That only adds. The thing that we found, though, is that, what we've done where we just pave these entire neighborhoods before there's even a demand to build there, that doesn't produce a return on investment. So, I don't know if you've been down south, but I can think of 2 or 3 neighborhoods, just roads and street signs. There's no buildings yet. There's no houses. So certainly there's enough that has already been invested that I would like to focus on densifying areas, taking these old houses that are rented out to college students year after year, changing the zoning laws so we can make that a more dense area up north.
Got a little bit more time for me?
I got plenty of time for you, Tyler.
Will Thompson's my guest. He's the first of this candidate series for some of these local races that are coming up. I got to get some of these messages out. We'll wrap up the conversation with him. If you have questions, by all means, you can text those into the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club. That's at 35270. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into Afternoons Live here on KFGO.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out, as people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Got another segment here with him. He's a candidate for the city commission here in Fargo. I'd said, look, if you had a question, send it in 35270. That's where I'm going. I want to ask you about law enforcement as well before I let you go. This one for you, Tyler. Would you consider yourself a socialist? Comes in. Oh, I got to turn them. There we go.
Yeah, well, I get this a lot, actually, especially when I talk about public banking specifically. The thing I have to say about it is if public banking and those kind of policies are socialist to you, well, then John Hoeven's the biggest socialist there is. You know, he created his political career off the back of being the president of the only public bank in the country. So to answer the question a little more directly, the exact label I would use would be something more in line with a libertarian socialist. So someone that, in essence, I believe that the government should do as much, should only do as much as they need to do to meet the basic needs of individuals. Now, I might have a different opinion of what those basic needs are than somebody else, but I'm just interested in meeting the basic material needs of people.
One of the basic, I think, functions, and then you say we might disagree on some of that, is security, law enforcement. President Biden last night just said, you can't defund the police. You need to fund the police. Here in Fargo, there's been, I think, a bit of a spotlight on the Fargo PD. Mm-hmm. And there was a morale report that came out that said, morale's kind of low, retention, recruitment. You're on the city commission. You got some input on here. I'm just curious, your perspective on how things are going law enforcement-wise here in Fargo.
Yeah, well, certainly, public safety, safety in general, that's a material need, and that needs to be met. I've met with the chief. I've talked about this stuff with him, and the staffing issues, quote unquote. He's given very, very detailed explanations as to what's going on there. It's a problem that we can all relate to. It's been a hard last 2 years, and the police department is not immune to those hard times. So certainly I stand behind Chief Cebulski on his explanations there. Yeah.
Very good. That was going to be the next question. Do you have the support, or Cebulski's got your support if you get onto this commission?
Yes, well, he's proven himself a reformer. Okay. He's instituted body cameras. He's he's listened to the public and instituted a police oversight board that where they can get recommendations from the public. So I think he's the right man for the job.
Very good. Final little question I've got for you, because this is your first time running for office, or not?
Well, I ran in 2020 as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But for the city race here.
Yes, first time in Fargo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And what I'm building up here, explain this voting process to me, because I threw it out there once, and a current commissioner got after me saying, "Tyler, you got it wrong here." He's not running for election again, for re-election, for those of you that want to piece that together. Tony, if you're listening, hi. So this is a new process that I think for a wider range of candidates, this is a new thing, not only for you and what that might mean for your chances, but for the public that's listening, saying, all right, I liked what Will said. I don't like what Will said. I've got this sheet in front of me. I'm not sure what to do. Can you explain this process to people listening?
Yeah, I love the process that we've instituted. And this will be the second election that we have the approval voting process. And I want to note that we are the only place in the country that does this. And I think we should cherish it, because what approval voting does at the end of the day, it encourages collaboration instead of competition. So let's look at some other systems. There's the regular one, one person for one seat, you get one vote, that whole thing. Then there's stuff like ranked choice voting, stuff like instant runoff voting, where that's more like, it's still a competition, but what's really happening, it's like a primary and a general happening at the same time, just on one ballot. I think that there's some improvements to that system, but it's still a competition at the end of the day. What approval voting says is that, do you approve of this person to be your city commissioner? And if you are able to give a yes to that, an enthusiastic yes, then you go ahead and check the box. It could be one person for the 2 seats, could be 2, could be 5 out of the 6 of them. Maybe you don't like one of the guys or girls. Well, it's all guys right now in the race. But maybe you just don't like one of the guys and you want to vote for all 5 of the others. It's up to you. It maximizes your choice, and it encourages collaboration.
People want to know more about you, and I'm sure we'll be visiting again. You and we are going to extend this to the other candidates as well, not only for this race, but a number of other ones here. Where do people learn more about you in the meantime?
Well, people can go to my website, willthompsonfargo.com. You can follow me on Facebook. You just look up my name, Will Thompson. You can find my city commission page there. The place I'm most active on, though, is Twitter, Will for Fargo. And I want to say that's with an F-O-R. I should double check that and make sure I know. But my personal account is the Tom's Will, the with an extra E.
Okay. You got a minute left here. Final word goes to you, and then I got to take a break here. But what did I not ask you that you want to get out before I let you get on out of the studio here?
Yeah, well, I would say, and I can't get into the whole story of it, but if you go on my Facebook, you'll see a story of a situation that happened Monday. A situation where I firsthand experienced somebody in our community treating a guest in our community extraordinarily poorly. And what I would say is that more so than anything, what we need in this country right now is respect and civility for disagreement. What's going on in Ukraine right now, that's a fight for democracy. That's a fight for respectability. It's a fight for civility. And I stand completely in solidarity with that. And that's what we need in this community. We need civility. We need honest and open discussion.
Then you wanted to direct people where to learn more about that story? Was it Facebook or is it?
Yep, Facebook. Facebook is the best place for you to see that story.
Well, it's been a pleasure to visit with you. I look forward to visiting with you down the trail a little bit later on as we get closer to that June primary, which hopefully will be here before we know it. That means winter's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll let you go. We'll talk again soon, all right?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Yeah, you bet. Will Thompson, he's one of the 6 candidates currently running for the Fargo City Commission. Appreciate his time. We will be doing this not only with the City Commission, we've got all these other races going on. It's going to be a busy year, not only going into this June, but quite frankly, the November races as well. Going to get you caught up with some local headlines. Paul Jiggins in the KFGO News Center. Rusty Halverson to follow. Then get ready. Wheel of Fortune. We'll play that frustrating audio for you when we come back. I'm Tyler Axis. Stick around.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out, as people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from
News and weather this hour brought to you by Ottertail Power Company, positively impacting communities they serve for more than a century.
Fargo-Moorhead, partly sunny. It is 19 degrees. I'm Paul Juergens. North Dakota native and UND graduate Dr. Carrie Oderman is among the thousands who've left Ukraine. Oderman has been a political commentator in Ukraine and covered President Zelensky when she was news director for the state-run Ukrainian TV. She, her husband, and children moved to Kyiv in 2018. They left just prior to the attacks on the city. They're now safe in Frankfurt, Germany. where she spoke to KFGO News and Views today with guest host Ed Schaefer. Oderman says the family left with only 3 bags.
We had those things ready, and we had about 8 hours before we drove out. So we each packed a suitcase, but everything else that we have is there. There has been some reports of looting. Bombing hasn't reached the center of the city. There is some urban combat going on right now. There are all sorts of rumors about the Wagner group being there, which is Russian mercenaries. There's also soldiers from Chechnya that are pro-Russian that have come into Kyiv.
Oderman says while the war appears new to outsiders, the threat of conflict with Russia has been looming as far back as 2014, when Moscow annexed Crimea and supported pro-Russian groups in eastern Ukraine. North Dakota's largest oil driller says it will commit $250 million to help build a proposed pipeline that would gather carbon dioxide produced by ethanol plants across the Midwest and pump it underground for storage. Billionaire oil tycoon Harold Hamm's Continental Resources made the announcement of the investment into Summit Carbon Solutions' $4.5 billion pipeline at the ethanol plant near Castleton. The plant is one of 31 across Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and the Dakotas where emissions would be captured and piped to North Dakota to be buried. With a tough winter coming to an end, Fargo City Commissioner Tony Gehrig, once a believer, says he does not support the use of snow gates. They attach to road graders, which follow plow trucks and prevent the buildup of large snowbanks at the end of driveways. Gehrig once supported them until he investigated the cost.
They're not capable of carrying them, so we'd have to get new devices. We would have to get road graders in many cases, which is far more expensive than a regular truck that you see out there with sand in the back, and they're much slower. And then maintenance.
Gehrig says it would cost about $8 million to begin the conversion. City Public Works Director Ben Dow says he's working to make snow removal more efficient using the equipment that the city has now.
Snowgate talk might curb itself a little bit because if the resident only has to clean their driveway once and not have to deal with clean your driveway and then go to work and then come home at 8 o'clock at night and here's a ridge, or get up in the morning, have cleaned your driveway the night before and there's a ridge in the morning. If we can get it down so that we're within that 8 to 10 hour, clean your driveway once.
But Dow says if city leaders decide to pursue snow gates in the future, he'd be open to the idea. Sioux Falls has used them for several years. That city street maintenance supervisor says they are not effective in heavy snowfalls. He says the city had to add graders to its fleet of snow removal equipment and also relies on private contractors to help clear the streets. The full story on the great Snowgate debate is posted now at KFGO.com. 19, this is KFGO News. "19 degrees, this is KFGO News. Fargo Fire responded to a report of a house fire at 1210 14th Street South at about 8:45 this morning. While en route, crews were told that the residents were out of the home. There was a small fire in the first-floor bedroom of a single-family home. The blaze was put out quickly. Damage was mostly confined to a wall in the bedroom. Damage to the home and belongings was estimated at $2,000. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Suspect is still being sought in a possible arson case at the Richland County Law Enforcement Center at Wahpeton overnight. Sheriff Larry Leszewski says a person entered the lobby around 9:30. Minutes later, a fire started in that same area. There was moderate damage to the lobby and smoke throughout the building. For safety, all inmates were removed from the correction center to a secure area, and then arrangements were made to transfer the prisoners to other jails in Cass and Barnes counties. As a precaution, searchers have failed to find a suspect. Federal ATF agents, the State Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and the Richland County Sheriff's Office are handling the investigation. Former Minneapolis radio personality Corey Hepela is running for governor as a centrist third-party candidate. Hepela made the announcement with a video posted on Twitter as his campaign website went live. Hepela is a native of Perham and a graduate of Concordia College. Hepela also formerly anchored at a Twin Cities TV station. Another third-party candidate, former wrestler Jesse Ventura, won Minnesota's race for governor in 1998. Fargo-Moorhead, partly cloudy overnight. We expect a low of about 4 below zero. Tomorrow, 14, partly to mostly cloudy. Clouds tomorrow night, a chance of light snow or mixed precipitation, and 11 for the low. Friday, mostly cloudy, possible flurries, 26. Partly sunny, 19. Paul Jurgens News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson.
Yes, sir.
Back in the KFGO studio. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
We're talking about something on everyone's mind, supply chain last hour.
Yep, absolutely.
We're taking part in another webinar, Northern Crop Institute.
Yep, you've got Dr. Frayne coming up next hour.
Yes.
Plenty of questions for him.
Lots of questions for him.
Yep.
If you have a question for Frayne Olson, send that in now to 35270. He can explain it and break it down so anyone can understand. That's what I greatly appreciate about him. But you've been working on the other side of this as far as some of the supply stuff.
Yeah, the Northern Crops Institute earlier today hosting a webinar regarding the supply chain. And they had a guest on, Walter Lanza. He's a commodity export trade manager with Schooler Company, and he says the Russian invasion of Ukraine will have a relatively small impact on global shipping, but the chaos is not helpful, especially when it comes to oil tanker rates in the region. Now, Russian oil and product exporters facing difficulties, as we just heard from Walter. Shipping, insurance, sales due to the sanctions being imposed on Russian entities by the EU and the U.S. According to Reuters News out of London earlier today, Tyler, BP canceling all fuel oil loadings from the Russian Black Sea port of Taman due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And, of course, Frayne will be able to speak to more of the concerns about grain shipments out of Ukraine.
There's a headline that got a lot of people's attention that says, is this war brought on by Putin going to increase beer prices, for example? Because you think about the crops that go into that. So, yeah, we'll talk about the grain side. The oil side, I know we went into a lot yesterday, the last couple of days. And the thing that I'm trying to kind of climb towards here is we talked about cutting it all off, imports here. It sounds like the private side's starting to do some of that without having Joe Biden stand in front of Congress and the American people, say, as a sanction on behalf of the United States. I'm just curious. Well, I'm going to dive into that a little bit more because you mentioned BP, which I know British Petroleum, but some of those private businesses are taking this on already, saying, look, we're done with them.
Yeah, like Josh Linville from StoneX saying, if you're a captain on a ship, I'm not going there.
Yeah, and that does certainly have an impact not only for Russia, but our prices as well. So
Yep, absolutely.
Rusty, I appreciate your time, man, as always.
You bet. May I come back and just listen in when you talk with Frayne?
You take that seat right there. You know what? I might even let you put that headset on and ask a question or two.
Okay, that's cool.
Rusty Alverson, him and Sarah Heinrich, the best in the business. You go to KFGO.com, you click on that agriculture tab to learn more. Wheel of Fortune, one of the greatest televised game shows in American history. I'm putting my stamp on it right there. Maybe we'll do a top 5 game shows of all time. If you missed what aired last night, I'm just warning you, you are going to be very frustrated with the puzzle that I'm going to throw your way. In fact, we'll do that right after the CBS News.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
Culberson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch
790.
Potato Radio.
JJ Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug Miller with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall, Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas.
Right here in the good old US of A is Wheel of Fortune. Staple for many of you. I know that always used to be on when we were sitting around the house. Watching Wheel of Fortune. Try to race each other in the living room to who's going to get it first. Still goes on to this day for sometimes around the house. The category last night was phrase. Now, I will read you what is currently on the board and see if you can text in the phrase to 35270 before the contestants answer it for you. Another feather, and then there is 2 letters. The N is there. There is 4 letters, which is Y-O space R. 3 letters, then the final word, which is space A space. Another feather. Can you solve that puzzle at 35270? While you are texting that in, I want you to listen to the contestants last night on Wheel of Fortune.
G. No G. Thomas. Uh-oh, the bankrupt got you. Laura, you have another shot at it. You can spin the wheel and try to solve the puzzle.
I'll solve.
Okay.
Another feather in your lap.
No. Although the feather is moving around.
Oh, gosh, she says.
900. D. No. Thomas. Well, Thomas, I think the wheel got... Laura, you have another opportunity here. You can spin the wheel. You can try to solve the puzzle. What do you want to do? Go ahead and spin if you don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and spin.
Yeah, don't get buzzed out here on time.
Is it in your bat?
Well, what letter would you like?
A P?
Yes, there's a P.
Oh, progress.
All right, she's got it.
Oh, okay. Spin or solve.
I will solve.
Okay.
Another feather in your map.
Christopher,
so close.
Oh my goodness, the bankrupt got you. Thomas, you have no money. I don't know what you're going to spin. You can try to
I'll spin.
Okay. So what letter would you like?
A C.
Is there a C up there anywhere? There you go. You want to solve this?
Yeah, I'll solve. Another feather in your cap.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. That was 2 minutes of brutal. The lovely lady was close because, I mean, the first one, she says hat. And in fact, that's the first one I get in to the text club, in your hats. But from there, she went with map, lap. There was...
I was going to guess cat.
The G guess from the third contestant. What are you aiming for there?
Well, and poor Thomas. Now, he's the guy that spun the last time and got the C and then solved the puzzle. There was 2 times before that to where you could see that clearly his facial expressions are, I know this puzzle. But he got a bankrupt, and then he lost a turn, and then finally the wheel came to him, and he said, I'm going to spin, I'm going to give it one more shot, and I'm solving this thing.
My favorite part of wheel videos like that is you can hear in Pat Sajak's voice when he's getting frustrated with the contestants.
It was so...
You guys!
Yeah, it's like, oh, this feather's moving around. Now, Pat Sajak has really has grown into an attitude, I think, the older he's gotten. He just doesn't seem like he's got time for any of the boneheaded moments from contestants on Wheel of Fortune. Last night, he kept the composure better than other times that I've seen. But Tyler, we watched this Wheel of Fortune. It was killing us. She did not know it. It was killing all of us. I'm like, how? And I couldn't turn away. It was like a car wreck. I had to watch.
And her facial expressions through the whole thing of... She was positive it was hat, and as soon as she found out was wrong, it was
stuck.
Blank.
It was in. Now we've all been there at a time or two, Tori. I know this. I know I'm supposed to know this, but the eyes of a lot of people or the ears are tuned in. That's a lot of pressure.
Oh, sure.
And the brain just blank mode.
Yep.
But map,
lap? That's the one that
I know that. It was.
Hat, give it to her. That seems reasonable.
The hat, the start of the hat, because hat, cap, the two are intertwined at times. It was just Wheel of Fortune still got it. It got us talking about it.
Yep.
That's now one of the top 5. You want to hear the top 5?
Yeah.
My takes on the top 5 game shows. Okay. In an old particular order. In some. Cash Cab. Great. That's number 5.
Oh.
Cash Cab is a great game show.
Kind of a mobile pub trivia.
Mm-hmm. This one, just because of how popular it got, I watched it. The one who eventually won being the first one, the way of which he did it, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh,
when he called his old man saying, hey, look, I'm not calling you for a help. I'm calling you to tell him to be a millionaire. That's baller.
Yeah.
The pinnacle being when it was hosted by Regis Philbin.
Regis Philbin. I don't even know who went on after that. So we've got that. Family Feud.
Oh,
that's number 3. Family Feud is number 3. I don't care who's hosting. Family Feud. There's a knockoff on the Game Show Network that is exactly like, but they have a map of the United States. I don't remember what it's called, but they've got lines.
Oh, the blank. Yes, I've seen that.
Well, somebody knows it. 35270. What's the knockoff Family Feud on the Game Show Network? My brother watches it all the time. Okay. This is the toss-up between me right now. I'm going to say Wheel of Fortune at number 2. Price is Right number 1. Price is Right number 1 game show that's ever been on American television. But I would, if you could make an argument to me why Wheel of Fortune is supposed to be number 1, I'd be open to it.
I'm going to have to disallow your list automatically for not including Jeopardy. I'm sorry. It's a failed list.
Yeah.
I'm saying you can put it wherever you want.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put Cash Cab above the
I would take
Godfather of trivia-based game shows.
I would remove Whose Line Is It Anyway before Cash Cab.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, I'm taking the Who Wants. Okay. I would take Who Wants to Be a Millionaire out, replace it with Jeopardy.
Okay.
I'm keeping Cash Cab.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
America Says. That's what Family Feud's knockoff is. Thanks for texting that.
America Says.
You ever watch that one? It's shockingly similar.
No.
Like even the setup.
My top 3 is Price is Right.
Okay. We're all in agreement. That's number 1.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Number 2, Jeopardy. Number 3, Card Sharks.
Oh, Card Sharks. That's a great classic game show. I like that inclusion, Rusty.
very good.
Yeah, I like the skill-based game shows. Wheel, Jeopardy, Price is Right. I'm going to throw those all in there as no-brainers. I would add in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Again, skill-based trivia. And I think my wild card might be $25,000 pyramid, just for the complete gong show of it all.
No.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Your top 5 American television game shows, 35270. Meredith Vieira was the next host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's right, I remember. Thanks for sending that in. I got to get you a weather update from Too Tall, Tom Szymanski. In about 10 minutes' time, Fran Olson, NDSU Agribusiness, going to be joining us. What's this Putin war in Ukraine going to do for all those commodity prices, supplies? He'll answer those questions in just a little bit. Stay with us.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
Here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Air
Mighty
Kansas Couch
790.
Potato Radio.
JJ Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug
Here with the morning crew this morning.
Jerkins News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Force.
Too Tall, Tom
Joel
Schman.
Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Friday, I'm back on the road and encourage you to join me at the Fargo-Dome. It's going to be taking place Friday through Sunday. You know what? I want to cover the expense to get in for 4 of you. I've got a 4-pack to get in to the gates of the Fargo-Dome. Now, whether you want to use that, oh, pardon me, Thursday is when it opens. I'm going to be there Friday. You want to stop by, say hello at the KFGO booth, I'd welcome you. But, of course, Saturday, Sunday as well. If you want to go up there, you and 3 family members, 3 friends, I don't care as long as you come on up and check out what they have to offer. Be caller number 5, 237-5948 is all you got to do. In fact, phone line's blown up. You were waiting for me to give the number, weren't you? While you're calling in, some of the other game shows that came in, I gave you my list. Agree or not, it doesn't matter to me. Tyler, a game show called Sale of the Century. Loved it. Gonna be honest with you, never heard of it. I'll go look it up, though, for you. Press Your Luck. Big bucks, no whammies. What was that little weird animal thing? I
think it was called a whammy. I don't know if it had a specific name.
Do the weird voice. Password should be in the top 5 game shows. Card Sharks, Price is Right, Hollywood Squares comes in. That's a good addition. Okay, Hollywood Squares. Press Your Luck, the match game. That comes in from John. One more for you. I got 30 seconds. Phone lines are blowing up. Price is Right, Press Your Luck, Sale of the Century. Supermarket Sweep. I remember that one. Wheel of Fortune. Okay, I said you can make an argument. I put Price is Right at number 1, ahead of number 2, Wheel of Fortune. I get you caught up with some CBS national headlines. Fran Olson, NDSU agribusiness. Easy for me to say. That's right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio. Did you see that?
From It Takes Two.
Doug here with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voices Forces.
Too tall,
Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. And send us a text anytime at 35270.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Wednesday afternoon. This is KFGO Fargo. You got a lot into. I'm Tyler Axis, host of Afternoons Live. Got another hour with you. We'll be joined by Fran Olson, NDSU Agribusiness, and just a little bit talking about what this war in Ukraine might do for commodity prices for all you farmers listening out there. Well, and as consumers as well. But it's time where we tell you about fact checkers. These are things you're probably seeing online. We're going to tell you whether or not they're true. Here's the claim. Are Ukrainians selling used Russian tanks on eBay? They are not selling used Russian tanks on eBay. They are, by accounts on those same social medias, taking the abandoned tanks. I've seen more farmers using their tractors, hauling, hopefully to their farmstead, these abandoned tanks. So that is happening. They are not, however, selling them as used on eBay. Question for you. Do people still use eBay? Is that still a thing? 35270. While you're sending that in, I got more game shows as well. Paul Jurgens in the KFGO News Center. Fran Olson next.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead 19. I'm Paul Juergens. North Dakota's largest oil driller says it will commit $250 million to help build a proposed pipeline that would gather carbon dioxide produced by ethanol plants across the Midwest and pump it underground for storage. Billionaire oil tycoon Harold Hamm's Continental Resources made the announcement of the investment into Summit Carbon Solutions' $4.5 billion pipeline at the ethanol plant near Castle. The plant is one of 31 across Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, where emissions would be captured and piped to North Dakota to be buried. Richland County Sheriff Larry Leshesky says a man who started a fire at the law enforcement center in Wahpeton was seen on surveillance video lighting some sort of device before leaving the scene. Leshesky says it's difficult to identify the device that held the material that was set on fire about 9:30 last night in the lobby of the building. The device was taken to a federal lab for examination. Investigators are reviewing video surveillance to identify a suspect. The fire caused moderate damage to the lobby and smoke throughout the building. Inmates were temporarily transferred in Fargo and Valley City. A woman is expected to face a felony assault charge for stabbing a man in the back in Wahpeton. Police Chief Scott Thorstensen says the victim is the manager of the apartment building where the woman lives.
Officers responded to a complaint from a 60-year-old male in the 800 block of South Center Street who reported that he had been stabbed or assaulted by a female resident of the area, assisted by NDSES officers and sheriff's officers, and also task force SEMCA officers, and determined that he'd been stabbed kind of in the kidney area.
Thorstensen says the victim refused medical attention at the scene but was encouraged to see a doctor. That stabbing happened late yesterday afternoon. A monthly bankers survey suggests that worries about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, soaring inflation, and rising interest rates combined to undermine the confidence of business leaders in 9 Midwest and Plain states. Creighton University economist Ernie Goss, who oversees the survey, says many businesses also fear the war may worsen the ongoing supply issues. The report's confidence index fell to its lowest point ever in February. The monthly survey covers North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and 6 other states. Legislation in the Minnesota House would create a separate agency to oversee the pet industry. The bill's sponsor says dogs, cats, and other companion pets have unique issues, and the current Animal Health Board is too heavily focused on livestock and wildlife. The bill has the backing of the Animal Humane Society, which brought puppies and kittens to the Capitol. Fargo-Moorhead will be partly cloudy overnight, and we should drop below zero. Meteorologist Tom Szymanski is expecting about 4 below. Tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy, 14 the high. Tomorrow night, near 11 degrees, mostly cloudy. We'll have a chance of light snow or mixed precipitation. Then mostly cloudy Friday, possible flurries, 26. Saturday, breezy, good chance of light snow. It may be mixed with mixed precipitation again, and 29 Saturday's high. Windy for Sunday, chance of light snow, 19. Fargo-Moorhead, it is 19 degrees. Paul Juergens, News Radio KFGO.
We spent a great deal of time over the last week talking about the impacts that Putin's war in Ukraine is going to have on a variety of things. We've spent a lot of time about energy, oil prices, gas prices, filled up today. It's noticeable. But the other thing, when you think about Ukraine, and if you're involved in agriculture, you know that they very much have an agricultural economy as well. We're all globally intertwined. So I'm curious what that's going to mean for you listening to me here in the Upper Midwest. Here to help break it down is always a friend of the show, Frayne Olson, NDSU Agribusiness. Frayne, it's been too long, my friend. How you been?
I've been doing well, but very busy.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking time. It's a busy time of year, so for giving us a little bit of time, grateful for that.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure visiting.
You know, I'm seeing headlines out there, of course, people talking about oil, gas, but on the other side, people thinking about wheat. They're thinking about what that does, what all the things you use wheat for. I'm just curious. I'll leave the floor to you. This war that's taking place, as far as the commodity prices go, what are you hearing out there, Frayne?
Well, a lot of turmoil,
Yeah.
and to be very honest, you know, even the professional traders and marketing folks, as well as the futures market, is trying to digest all of this new information and say, what does it really mean? What does it mean for pricing? What does it mean for grain flows? What does it mean for U.S. agriculture? I guess the kind of the three areas we're focused most on in ag itself. Obviously, number one is wheat, because Russia is the largest wheat exporter, and Ukraine is number three for wheat exports. Now, they export primarily what we would consider a hard red winter wheat, so more like a Kansas wheat, not necessarily spring wheat like we have here in North Dakota or Minnesota. The other one that we're watching very closely is corn. Ukraine is the fourth largest corn exporter, so there's some implications for corn and corn shipments. But also for barley. Ukraine and both Ukraine and Russia are large barley exporters. Now, barley is what they export is feed barley, not necessarily malting barley for beer, but it's a feed barley, again, competing with some of the corn in the global market. And then finally, which has got a lot of farmers kind of concerned, is fertilizer. Russia is the largest exporter of natural gas. They also manufacture and sell a tremendous amount of urea fertilizer as well as anhydrous fertilizer. So now, again, we in the U.S. don't buy a lot of their fertilizer, but they do supply the global market and a lot of the other users. So what they decide to do and how we respond to potential sanctions, et cetera, has a big impact here in the States.
Well, and fertilizer and input costs have been top of mind for a lot of people long before this invasion took place. And the supply, the cost of it, and then now if we were starting to limit off on the global side some of that supply, that's going to probably make it more expensive and make it perhaps more difficult to find?
Yeah, the biggest concern actually is most of the fertilizer that we're going to use this spring is already kind of in place. It's already here in North Dakota. It's sitting in storage right now. So the value of that may go up and down a little bit. What we're really concerned about more importantly would be what's the value of fertilizer this coming fall as well as next spring, about a year from now. Because, the natural gas that's in the pipeline right now, it takes a while for that to get manufactured and then get into the right place. So there is potentially some short-term price changes in the fertilizer we have right now in storage, but the bigger issue will be the fertilizer next year.
Fraden, this is a concept that's been thrown out on the energy side. I'm seeing if there's any equivalent on the agriculture side. Over the last few days, I've been getting a lot into this show saying, you know what, just ban Russian imports of oil. We've got the product right here. We can become independent, do our own. I mean, that's a lot easier said than done when it comes to oil, natural gas. We got a lot of agriculture right here as well. I know you're saying that some of this, they're exporters, number one, number 3, 4, as far as exporting globally here. Is there any discussion of what we can do, make a change in game plan going forward to help offset some of the impacts over in Ukraine right now?
And that's a great question. And before we get into that, I do want to just remind everybody, even though we talk about Russia and Ukraine and kind of comparing the relative size and the different commodities, so right now Ukraine is really the focus of the problem. Russia has some issues from a grain exporting standpoint, but in Ukraine, the Ukrainian government has basically closed all of their export terminals. And there's some concern now about, as we get closer to spring's work, are the Ukrainian farmers going to be able to plant their crops? On the Russian side, they are still able to export, but there aren't many people interested in buying. So, and again, when it comes to spring planting, the Russian farmer should have a little better time or easier time than the Ukrainian farmer getting the crop in. So we do have to kind of distinguish, even though we're lumping them together, we do have to separate them out a little bit.
That's fair. That's very
so
fair.
Coming back to the grain side, or the things that we can do, really there's going to be kind of a round robin of who buys from who, in particular for wheat, but also for corn. So what's happening now is some of the grain, the wheat in particular, that would be shipped to big buyers, global buyers like Egypt or the Middle East or even North Africa, which tends to buy a lot of their wheat products from Ukraine and Russia. They're now shifting their purchases into the European market because logistically it's a little closer. Australia had a very, very good crop this year. They've got a lot of wheat to export. Argentina actually had a very big wheat crop as well. So they have an additional supplies. So we will see, kind of who sells to whom. The U.S. wheat tends to be higher priced. than some of the other suppliers. So we tend to sell to those customers that are very quality sensitive. Countries like Russia, Ukraine tend to sell to those countries that are very price sensitive. So we may see some increase in wheat exports out of the U.S. It's likely we'll see that, but it may not be at the large volumes that a lot of people are suspecting. So some of this we're going to have to wait to see, depending also on how long the conflict lasts. If this is relatively short and there's some kind of ceasefire, which would be fantastic, that would be one scenario. But if this continues and drags on for several months, the longer it drags on, the bigger the impact.
Yeah, when I'm looking up, this is day 7. It feels like it's day 77 of this Russian invasion or this Putin war. But I think you're right when you talked about differentiating the two, because it's about getting out into the field. You read stories about what's going on with the attacks, but also journalists that are over there saying, but here I am going down this road. You still have farmers out doing their day-to-day. But as you say, as this prolongs, if this expands, then having the ability to go out there, do the planting, do the harvesting is going to be a lot more difficult. And what that impact is, it'll be a long-term thing.
Exactly. And right now, most of the military actions are basically right around the border. It's kind of the ring of cities and locations right along the outer rim of Ukraine. So the central part of Ukraine, it hasn't been as directly impacted as some of those areas where now the troops are starting to enter. So depending on how all this plays out, again, timing-wise, we may see that the breadbasket part, the central part of Ukraine, have more troubles later on.
And Fred, you had mentioned about the ports, that they've closed them down. That's for exporting as well? So even if they get a crop, if this is continued, there's going to be probably very little exports going on?
Correct. So the Ukrainian government, I think because of safety issues, they did close down all their ports. Yeah. They also made an announcement a couple of days ago that they're not going to open up those ports until after the war is over. So it looks as though product coming out of Russia, at least through the Black Sea region, by ocean vessel, is going to be cut off for a significant amount of time. Now, they can also ship by rail primarily into Western Europe. So there is a market yet for some of the Ukrainian products to be able to leave and go into the Western European regions. But again, it's be a little more expensive because you have to transport it by rail. It's usually a lot less expensive to try and ship it by ocean vessel.
Fred, this might be a naive question. It wouldn't be the first I've asked, let alone today, any other time this week. But one of the things, and this will be, I think, that long term, that it'll get more noticeable, is you think about the products when it comes to groceries just in Ukraine right now. If you've got supplies cut off, I know there's been humanitarian aid. Well, let's say bread becomes more scarce. The things that they need to supplement their diets, will that also have an impact on what they would be willing and able to export? Would that have an impact as well if they need to keep more of that for their own livelihood?
Potentially, yes. I mean, we're already starting to see some reports. I saw some this morning on the national news where they were, scanning some of the grocery stores in some of the larger cities in Ukraine, and basically the shelves are almost empty. A part of that is because obviously people have been stocking up and trying to build some reserves in case they do get locked in for a while. But they also are having problems getting restocked. Some of the inflow of product to restock the shelves in the grocery stores are also very difficult to find. So if you can't buy it from the grocery store, you start bartering with your neighbor, or you try and figure out how can we get some fresh product from the farm. And so that's more than likely what will happen.
Fran, I'm going to pull in our ag reporter here, Rusty Halverson.
Hi, Fran. Question for you. When you talk about Ukraine and Russia producing so much feed barley, when we see headlines online saying beer might be more expensive, is that clickbait?
I'd be careful of that. I mean, so obviously what happens when on the globe, because this is a global economy, right? And anything that happens globally can impact prices here within the U.S., even though we don't export hardly any barley anymore. If you go back 20 years, we exported a lot of both malt barley and feed barley. But what happens is when the global price goes up, as global prices of barley start going up, the buyers of barley on the global market started looking around saying, well, where else can we purchase barley from? And we do produce barley here in North Dakota, in the region. Obviously, if prices got high enough, farmers would certainly sell into the international market. But realistically, a lot of the barley we produce in this region, especially for that portion that goes for beer and beer production, is under contract. I do think prices will likely go up for the barley itself, but I don't know that that's really going to cut into our beer supplies. So I wouldn't be too concerned that you're going to run out in the local liquor store or in your favorite pub.
Fran, I'm going to admit it right now. I took that bait earlier today and made that click, as Rusty just brought up. But Fran, what else did I miss before I let you go? Like I said, I always appreciate you coming on so you can explain it so eloquently and so understandable. What else about this crisis do you want to get out before I let you go?
You're going to be hearing a lot more about food inflation. And I want people to separate some of the food inflation. Without a doubt, some of it will come from higher for corn prices, because corn is used as a feed in livestock and the meat sector. We do use, obviously, wheat in bread and bread products. But I want people to understand that the portion of the food dollar that actually it comes from, for example, wheat or from corn, is very small relative to all of the other ingredients and all of the other things that go into it. So really, if you look at the numbers, the price of gasoline and diesel fuel, the cost of moving product around from store to store or from where it's manufactured to the grocery store, is actually a larger portion of the food dollar than actually some of the core grains we use. So we will see some food inflation, but a large portion of that is going to come from the petroleum costs, not necessarily from the underlying grain. So it is some of both. It is some of both, but the petroleum, the energy costs are going to be a much larger portion of it.
Friend, that's a great way to end it there. Very important. It's on top of people's minds. They're talking about it at cafes, at their own dining tables, about the price of everything. So thank you for taking time to break it down, my friend. You take care of yourself, and we'll chat again soon.
All right, you as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Fran Olson, NDSU Agribusiness. Nobody better to explain that for you. Want to get this message out before I take a break here. Tyler, there's icy patches on Highway 10 between 336 and Glendon. So again, icy patches along Highway 10. I did notice earlier today some of that wind was blowing, getting a little sticky out there on some of those roadways, especially the east-west roads. Some of these messages coming up. We'll check in with Paul Jurgens. Not too long from now, we'll see what's coming up with Derek Hansen. He's got Drive Time News and Couch Potato Radio before Hennessy on Hockey. That is your KFGO evening lineup. Stay with us.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out. Right. And just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good. When we're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night, the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the Mighty.
I mean, it's important information. You're obviously thinking about it. You bring it up a lot, and rightfully so, how much more expensive things are getting. Both in part because of domestic policy, because of the global market, because of everything, this pandemic, but also now Putin's war. It's noticeable. I tell you what, when I filled up today, it was the first time I had the words that came to my mind, of which I will not utter into this microphone. You've been in that position too. But we'll continue to give you all the latest, whether it's from the agriculture side, the energy side, throughout the remainder of what's hopefully going to be the short crisis, but I'm not optimistic there. Again, icy patches on Highway 10 between marker 336 and Glendon coming in to our text club. Any other road reports, you can send those in as well. It's getting to that drive time for many of you to be getting where you want to go, which is out of the office, out of the shop, home, to the pub, wherever it is. We'll get you there safely. You're the eyes and ears out there, the road warriors. So you send them in, we'll get them out to the rest. I do want to congratulate Bill. He's going up with 3 of his friends to this Sportsman show. I'm going to be up there Friday, Bill. Maybe you can stop by and say hello. Final half hour of Afternoons Live right after this KFGO News.
Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did
JJ
you
Gordon
see that
from It Takes Two.
Doug
We got
with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Amy Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports. Too tall, Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah
7.
Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just giving the greatest good.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Bradfield and Equitable Agri-Finance, providing long-term fixed-rate financing to America's farmers and ranchers.
And Fargo-Moorhead, mostly cloudy. It's 18. Now, Paul Jurgens. Arson was the cause of a fire that caused moderate damage to the lobby of the Richland County Law Enforcement in Wahpeton last night. The rest of the building filled with smoke. Sheriff Larry Leszewski says that fire was set. There was some type of device used based on review of surveillance video. That device was taken to an ATF lab for examination. The sheriff says they also have video footage of the man. He has not said if that person could be identified from that video.
That situation with those cameras, they have a view of that lobby area. And, of course, this was so quick that, they've got hundreds of cameras they're looking at. So, if they missed the person walking in or whatever, but we've got footage of that, which has been provided to ATF and them for investigation purposes.
A search of the immediate area after the fire failed to turn up a suspect. About 15 inmates were transported by bus to jails in Fargo and Cass County Fargo and Valley City as a precaution. They were to be returned to the jail in Wahpeton today. Federal ATF agents and the State Bureau of Criminal Investigation are assisting Richland County with that investigation. Fargo Fire responded to a report of a house fire at 1210 14th Street South. That was about 8:45 this morning. On en route, crews were told that the residents routed the home. There was a small fire in the first-floor bedroom of a single-family home. The blaze was put out quickly. Damage was mostly confined to a wall in the bedroom. Damage to the home and belongings was estimated at $2,000. The cause of the fire is under investigation. 18 degrees. This is KFGO News. "18 degrees. This is KFGO News. A woman with a gun who was holding hostages at a gas station in St. Paul was arrested without anyone hurt. Officers were called to a Speedway convenience store on a report of the woman threatening people with a gun. SWAT officers and crisis negotiators worked to establish communication with the woman. After an hour, at least one gunshot was fired inside the store. Officers went in and arrested the 31-year-old woman. Former Minneapolis radio personality Corey Hepple is running for governor as a centrist third-party candidate. Hepple made the announcement with a video posted on Twitter as his campaign website went live. Hepple is a native of Pura, Minnesota, and a graduate of Concordia College. Hepple also formerly anchored at a Twin Cities TV station. Reporter Tasha Radel says Minnesota will likely not follow the lead of other states and pull Russian-made liquors from the shelves.
At this there is no statewide discussion, and there is a good reason why. Minnesota currently doesn't have any state-run liquor stores or state-run wholesale liquor distributors. There are many cities that manage their local municipality, and it is not centralized. There may, however, be individual bars, restaurants, or liquor stores that make their own product decisions related to the sale of Russian-made products. There is a statewide agency that regulates alcohol under the Department of Public Safety, but it focuses on enforcement of liquor laws and taxes, not products.
Partly cloudy, Fargo-Moorhead overnight. We expect a low of about 4 below, partly to mostly cloudy and 14 degrees. Fargo-Moorhead now, it is partly sunny, 18. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
CBS National Headlines along the way. If you missed any of our conversations today, whether that's with Bill Werner talking about Minnesota's surplus, Will Thompson, our first candidate, of which we have extended or will be extending the invite to candidates in the area. If you miss his why he wants you to vote for him, or if you just happen to miss Frey and Olson explaining inflation, this war in Ukraine, what that's going to do on the agriculture side, what you're paying at the grocery store, that's all located at KFGO.com. Click on the podcast page, or iTunes, or Spotify, or Audible. Wherever you get podcasts, you can find the Afternoons Live podcast right there, and the price is right. It's free for you. Tyler, it's fuel adds the price of everything. Yes, and that's what Frey and Olson left us with, saying, yeah, when we think about the price increases that you're seeing when you check out at your grocery store, yeah, there's a little bit of it on the commodity side when it comes to grains and all of that. Primarily, it's about fuel costs, and that's something that you're certainly noticing over the course of the last week or so. Get you those national headlines. Whatever you want to talk about, is you, me, this microphone, and your cell phone the whole rest of the way. You can text in the Ad Consultants Text Club at 35270. You can call the Landy Studio line, 237-5948. I'm Tyler Axness. Stick around.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Anderson here with another segment of Agri News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Dear
Mighty
Kansas
790.
Couch Potato Radio.
JJ Gordon from It Takes Two.
Doug
Miller with the morning crew this morning.
Jenkins News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, Voice of Sports.
Too tall, Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate but also have a sense of independence.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. Got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11. And volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
Sometimes you just got to let it get there. And people in this building can be mad at me all they want. 237, that's... Can you tell out there by listening I've gotten the talk by the music selection? 237-5948. It's Lenny's studio line. You can text into 35270. They'll be waiting at my office, I assure you, Eric, by the time I get out of here.
And I can assure them that I picked the songs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pick when you talk.
Yeah,
but
that's the conversation I've had. We pay you to talk, not listen to REO Speedwagon.
Yeah, but when it's roll with the changes, how do you not let it get
sometimes
there?
You got to let it roll to the chorus is all I say. Tomorrow, it's Thursday, obviously, for those of you that thought it was already Thursday, Rusty Halverson. We've got a great show lined up for you. All the usuals, audibles, Spencer Wirt. But we're going to tell you again about the Sportsman Show. Barry Sinanko, he puts this thing out. It's the largest outdoor show in the area. And I'm going to be broadcasting from there on Friday. This would be one of the first taking it back out on the road. We had such a great time getting back to the area, destinations, the events, all of that during the last spring and fall. Guess what? I'm doing it all over. Might not be just on a Friday, because not everything happens on just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So this will be the first of that. We're going to be up there at the Fargo-Dome. I'm encouraging you to stop on up, say hello, maybe get some of those canned koozies brought to you by Welton's Tire Service. Then we're heading out to Valley City. We're going to be at the winter show, and we're just getting started. So be watching for us back on the road. We're going to have a great time reintroducing you to spring and what comes along with spring, including some of those activities that are going to be on a little bit later. There is one that I can tell you about that I'm really excited for. I'm not going to tell you where, and I'm not going to tell you when, but the Minnesota Vikings are involved, and we know we're at least going to have football. We might not get to baseball. So Manfred's the worst commissioner now of all sports, right? Can we all agree on that? Not that there was a lot of competition. We've got our gripes with Roger Goodell. People boo him when he comes out for the draft. People boo him at stadiums. But the product has been okay aside from maybe some of the penalty changes. Some of the flags for taunting, for example, which I don't get. I know there are people that say, well, they should go out there, they should get the play done, and then get back to the huddle or get off the field. I mean, there is something, and it's not just for football. Baseball, for example. I've got no problem with bat flips if you hit a home run. Basketball, same thing. If you do alley-oop, if you hit you run back the court, you celebrate. That's the joy and the fun of people out there with the product on the court, on the field, on the ice, celebrating some of the accomplishments they're able to do because they are quite athletic, if you haven't been noticing. Why do we continue to move towards taking off those spontaneous, well, I shouldn't say, not all of them are spontaneous. For example, pulling a marker out of your cleat to sign a football, that's not spontaneous. Or a flip phone from below a goalpost, not spontaneous. But for me, that is some of the fun in the game. The fun is being a consumer of that, to where it's not just, all right, set hut, all right, here's a 5-yard out, or a drop down, whatever. All right, plays over, blow the whistle, back to that. The fun in it. Do you agree with me with the fact that you let the players have the emotion? I mean, it can be restrained a little bit when it comes to maybe the unsportsmanlike. I don't view all of the things that are being flagged or all of the complaints you see on Twitter from bat flips after hitting home run. I don't see all of them as being unsportsmanlike. So I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in that whole category of let them play the game at the high caliber of which they can. Let them celebrate to a reasonable extent. And I think that's where it is. We have gotten so unreasonable with the things we're penalizing people for, things that we're criticizing them for when it comes to celebrating something they accomplished out on the field. I mean, where do you fall on that? 35270. You can also text in or call into 237-5948. Tyler, 3 hours of the best bump music in the biz. Thank you. We will send that. I'm going to print off your text. I'm going to put it on an official letterhead of Afternoons Live, and I'm putting that on someone's desk in this building. I won't say who, because it's not. Okay, I'm going to have to make a few copies. In my mind, I've got to make 4 copies, and I will distribute it all the way around here. Okay, I see that this one has been edited with asterisks, so let me proofread. Tyler, I enjoyed the planned touchdown celebrations. Oh, this is good. Duck, duck, gray duck, leapfrog. That is duck, duck, goose where I'm from. But yes, let the team celebrate. Let the players celebrate. Don't penalize unless it's over the top. Now, they're going to say, well, how do you draw the line? I think it is quite obvious for most people that are regular consumers of celebrating versus direct in your face taunting. And if you're they're calling these and they're not doing it universally. I could think about Tyreek Hill, for example, doing the peace sign to a defender's face, running into an end zone, I think in the AFC Championship game, not causing a flag. So, I mean, if you're calling it, you got to call it universal. But I just do not think that this is the way of which you're going to be drawing people in and say, great, because you're just doing nothing but drawing complaints about all the flags or all the whistles. Okay, this is the one that I wanted to proofread. So, just to let you know, Highway 10 going west of, I think it's supposed to be Glendon, is backed up because of a truck. It's on its side. I think it's supposed to be flipped over on its side in the ditch. It's very icy out here, 40 miles an hour. So I'm going to repeat that now that I tried to piece it together. Just so everyone knows, Highway 10 going west of Glendon is backed up because of a truck that's on its side in the ditch. Very icy. 40 miles an hour is what we're getting from our text club. Oh, in fact, I think that's probably what our caller was Is that what they relayed to you?
Caller
Okay.
Michelle was calling him to say that Highway 10 is getting very, very slippery.
Okay. Tyler, accident on Highway 10 going east right out of, it says London. I think these are auto-correcting from Glendon. So Highway 10, and there are certain highways in certain directions that always have issues. Highway 10 is the one that, if there's any little bit of precip, if there's any bit of wind with a warm sun hitting that, it sticks. It's icy. So just blanket statement here, Highway 10, slow down, take your time if you're on that. There is an accident backing people up, so if you can find an alternate route, I would suggest that as well. Keep those coming in, whether it's about Highway 10. Tyler going east on Highway 10, slowing down traffic. Thank you. Road Rory reports, you can send in all of that, and you know what? I've got another 13 minutes with you. After this Too Tall Tom Schmansky weather update, we'll see what's coming up on the drive. You let us know. We'll let fellow travelers know as well. I'm Tyler Axis, your host. Aaron Johnson's our producer. 13 minutes left of Afternoons Live on a Wednesday afternoon. You got a locked into KFGO Fargo.
Steve Robertson here with another News Radio.
Hey, this is Abby Miller with the
Derek
Mighty
Hansen, Couch
790.
Potato Radio. Did
JJ
you
Gordon
see that
from
game?
It Takes Two.
Doug
Here
with the morning crew this morning.
News Radio.
Katie Eiler with It Takes Two.
This is Jack Michaels, voice of sports. Too Tall Tom Joel Heitkamp here on the Mighty
Sarah Heinrich.
Tyler Axis, your host.
The Mighty 790 and 104.7 FM KFGO. The names you know, the voices you trust.
So today on MSUM campus, we're doing an ice jam, which is we're combining a bunch of percussion instruments with ice instruments, which are also going to be used in a percussive form. We're going to hit them with mallets, hammers, all those types of things. Today is all improv, so we're all just kind of working with ideas that we just kind of think of as we go, and we kind of play off each other, and it's fun to collaborate, but also have a sense of independence.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page, and send us a text anytime at 35270.
Well, we're doing a food giveaway event to the community. A lot of people are facing food insecurity at this time. As we can tell, we had to start about an hour early because we just had so many people lined up. So as people come up and they need whatever they need, volunteers are taking care of it. It's all contactless, so nobody has to get out, and just making sure whatever the greatest need. We're just getting the greatest good. We're going until the food is out. As people are coming in, if they need 2 boxes and 2 gallons of milk, that's what we're giving. We don't want to leave anybody out.
I was in the hospital, and I saw a flyer on the wall. And all the nurses were talking about taking people down there to get food and stuff. I got out last night. I got out of the hospital last night, and I said, man, I'm going to do this. When I came from Williston here, I lived on these streets for 3 years, caring. And that's what this is. That's the way I see it. Very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful because I know people that are doing without.
I think it's truly remarkable how much need there is out there. Like I said, we were going to start at noon, but we had so many people lined up. We started at 11, and volunteers have been working their tail off since then. I'm thankful for that. I think this shows that there is some huge needs in the community, and we got some things we got to address.
caller out there during that weather update from Too Tall Tom says, yeah, it's not just Highway 10. There's some Cass County roads that are also starting to slick up out there, and it hits you unexpected. You'll have some just regular good driving conditions. All of a sudden, bam, icy conditions. And I did see some of that happening over the lunch hour, especially on those east-west roads. Derek Hansen in the studio. He'll get you all the drive time updates during the drive time news. You got Couch Potato Radio as well.
Yeah, we just got a short one right before Hennessy on hockey tonight at 6:30, and we'll keep you up to date with that traffic and weather together. It looks like just a tough thing once you get through Glendon. It's obviously a mess when looking at the map here, so you may want to avoid that area. Make a move, as we say, for traffic and weather together, and we'll get your details on Wall Street and a little sports look with Matt English. As we got, I know baseball's backing up and spring training's nice, but man, there's so much going on. And
there is.
I posted earlier today the KFGO story about the T-Wolves thrashing the Golden State Warriors. And ladies and gentlemen, the most compelling team, the most entertaining team right now in Minnesota is the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would not have said that a year ago at this time, thinking that the Twins would be a little bit better in 2021, and they weren't, and the Vikings were a under 500 team, and the Wild have been good, then they've really struggled, losing 6 of 7 now. So.
Yeah, I don't remember who shared it. Now, of course, it's because I spend too much time on social media, even though I tell you to stop it. Somebody's like, we went from saying the Wild cannot trade anybody because it's just this team is where it is. Now it's like, oh, where'd the wheels fall off?
Yeah, it's been something the last few weeks. So hopefully they can get it on track here very soon. But we got a lot to get to. Hennessy and hockey should be fun tonight. That's a team that's going in the other direction, a good direction, and they'll try to wrap up the Penrose Cup, the regular season championship for the NCHC coming up this weekend. And it's like the magic number thing in baseball. Any combination of a win for UND or a Denver loss will get all that done. So hopefully they can get it done down at Baxter Arena this weekend.
Very good. Did you listen to the Jeopardy? The Wheel of Fortune Cup. Did you watch it on your own?
I've heard about it. And so what exactly happened here? I'm not sure.
The phrase was, I think, put a feather in your cap.
Yep.
They had everything except for cap, and they tried a bunch of different combinations, and it didn't work out. The one guy that didn't know it, of course, with the spin of the wheel, bankrupt, lose a term.
No,
felt bad for that guy. He finally got there. But we compiled top 5 game shows. What's the best American television game show that in your opinion?
The best ever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I got to go with Price is Right.
That's the correct answer. That is correct.
I mean, there's some that I really liked. I always liked Card Sharks.
Yeah, a lot of people threw that one.
And the reason why is just you're kind of guessing higher, lower. It's kind of like gambling. I think people get into that, just regular gambling. But so I always enjoy that. But no, just
higher, low, red or black. There's some college kids nodding their heads. Say, yeah, we play that out of
right. It's right. I mean, so it has that gambling aspect to it. I think the reason that people like Price is Right so much is there's so many different types of games, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same thing.
It's like a variety game show.
Right.
You never know which one.
So you don't have a thing like Wheel of Fortune's great and Jeopardy's great, but it's the same format every time where Price is Right. You can golf one day, you spin the wheel, you watch a guy jump over, fall over a cliff. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things.
Damn yodeler, man. If I were ever to end up,
great.
No, the yodeler.
Yeah, that's great.
No, Plinko. I leave it to chance.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem when they try to do Plinko on its own. Remember that they had a game show where it's just like Plinko.
Well, that'd be boring.
Well, right, exactly. There's Plinko's like the McRib. You can't have it all the time. Yeah. You got to just have it every once in a while.
If you saw that board full of pegs come out, man, you're gonna have a good 5 minutes.
I like the golf game too because then you got to see if Bob would make it or not too. So that was part of it.
Yeah, Bob.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Does Drew Carey do the golf thing?
I don't know if he does.
I haven't watched Price is Right.
He does a pretty good job with it, but it's just hard to replace.
It's hard to follow a Bob Barker.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wonder if they still have that golf game, does Drew Carey then go out there and try to make that putt as well?
Yeah, that's a tough deal. I mean, you kind of want to make something your own, right? So yeah. I don't know how.
So what would he do?
That.
I don't know Drew Carey aside from the Drew Carey Show, and whose line is it anyway?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's got any other talents.
No, I don't know if he does or not.
Oh, somebody says yes, Drew does.
He does golf too.
Is he any good?
Yeah.
I've got less than 1 minute for you to respond to 35270.
Yeah.
Derek Hansen's got the Drive Time News, Couch Potato Radio to follow. Then, of course, Hennessy on Hockey. That's going to be taking over these airwaves at 6:30. Again tomorrow, full show in store for you. Spencer Worth, the Meat Dude. We'll check in with Devil's Lake Tourism, get you that ice fishing report. Audibles brought to you by Don's Car Wash. We will check in with a Sportsman Show, and I will have plenty of passes to get from me to you. But that's it for me today. I'm Tyler Raxis, your host here on Afternoons Live. I will be back tomorrow for more of the show. Till then, you drive safe and you take care of yourselves. I'll check in right here on 790 AM and 104.7 FM, KFGO.
Thanks for watching News and Views on YouTube.